Hey guys, it's me again, Tiggy Maximus with Tiggy Maximus Talks, episode 250 on Spotify and YouTube. Welcome to 2026, brand new year. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast or watching the podcast and telling your friends and family. Um, Honestly, it's nice to have a new year. I'm glad 2025 is over and looking forward to good things in 2026. Um, on this episode of 250, I want to talk about two comedy shows. One, I actually had my hand in the production of at the My Job Comedy Club in Clever Mesa Boulevard. I was working with Jeremy Gumbo Christian, and I actually brought on a new talent, a musician, uh, Lindsey uh, Grisky, Lindsey Ghriskey, rhymes with risky. So that was another musical talent I happened to catch, and brought her on, and the crowd seemed to like her. I guess you would say her improv music because she was taking a lot of requests. Most of it she could actually accommodate, but it was kind of nice to see her, and then the comedians got to see her perform. So um, I guess you could say it was a little intimate in the room, and I'm kind of glad the comedians and the audience was able to kind of listen to how well Lindsay does play her music, and she had to play some of her most comfortable cover songs, and took on some requests. And I guess there was a request for WAP, wet ass pussy. um, yeah, and I think I kind of threw out there Phil Collins and Taylor Swift. So who knows? Somebody might be able to play those types of covers right on the spot. But Lindsay did her best to play whatever she could. Um, it was kind of nice to kind of see a little, I guess you would say, a little crowd work with getting a request. And somehow during asking for requests got really funny because new comedian Ken Savage, former rapper, he had, kind of, I guess you could kind of help with the support of trying to get Wet Ass Pussy to be played on the guitar. So, um, but yeah, there was a list of comedians on the card. It started with our host, Ace Adrian Diaz, and he always does a great job putting together shows, and is great as a host. And he did his comedy on stage, and it was a nice way to warm up. Um, and then we have um, John Alexander. It's good seeing him. I've seen him quite a few times. I'll see him at the Quantum Brewery, and then I think I might have seen him over at the Belgian Beaver in North Park. Quantum Breweries in Clever Mesa Boulevard, which is across from the Mike Drop Comedy Club. He did his usual jokes. Um, then we got Brendan Preskowitz. He brought his guitar, and he did get a very loud ovation and got some good laughs when he was playing his music while telling jokes. Um, then we got Tommy Lacerda, and his crowd work was pretty good with his jokes because there was a couple in the crowd, and couldn't help but single them out. And they were troopers. They were having a good time. So that's always a good sign when they're having a good time. Yeah, Chuck Foster, great guy. Um, got some good jokes. Then we got to see Ken Savage go up and perform his comedy. It's my first time seeing him do comedy outside of the debut that one time um, with Gumbo. Um, he was a former rapper, and I'm somehow kind of helping Ken. I just mentioned a bunch of open mics, and he's getting his feet wet out there, and I think he's producing a show in comedy, and he has his own podcast. Um, so big things for Ken. Um, Comedy wasn't too bad. I think it's getting better. And then you got Danny Ragu, and you know, I would say he's a pretty loud comedian, but you know, some of his stuff is pretty funny. Um, we got Kent Bradley, kind of a pop in, did some of his comedy, and it's been a while since I've seen his stuff. And then, of course, Lindsay got to perform her music at the end. So I would say it was a decent show. Honestly, I like that the the couple, you could see that they were doing doing their best to keep up with the show, and the fact that they were doing, they're a part of everybody's crowd work is seems like everyone's favorite target. If you're close to the front of the stage, um, uh, honestly, uh, yeah, decent show. Um, I would say that probably the funniest person I could think of was probably Tommy and Brendan. Um, but some of the funniest spots was just the whole thing with Ken Savage and that one couple, and with Lindsay trying to get cover ideas. That actually got some good laughs there at the end of the show. So that made it for a very good time, and I had a good time. And it was kind of cool, really seeing everyone perform and see how the crowd reacts. And the next time we have a show at the My Job Comedy Club, Gold Room, is going to be February 6th. I believe that is I want to say that's a Friday night. It's like right before the Super Bowl, which is February 8th. Um, I did go to another comedy show, and it was at the Madhouse. It was the last Madhouse show, I believe, of 2025, and Jay Light was the headliner. He usually is a game host for a comedy show at the Mic Drop called Wrong the Game Show or something, or Wrong the Fucked Up Game Show. um, so yeah, I saw him. I guess it might have been once or twice for that game show, and then saw him perform. Um, it might have been with Melissa Wiseman, but then I think I remembered him mostly for the game show. And then the fact that he was headlining the Madhouse, I wanted to go see him. He kind of remembers me, and I definitely remember him. So it was really nice to talk to him after the show and see what he's up to. And he's writing for a show, and he gets to work, I guess, in Toronto. So kudos to Jay Light. Um, I guess the host of the Madhouse show, with Jay Light being the headliner, was Ben Keltner, and he did his usual set. Got a lot of good laughs. Um, uh, did really well. Um, let's see. The next person that went up was Carlos Figueroa. Um, he did all right, but I don't remember much from his set. Um, other than him talking about, um, him feeling like girls feel somewhat safe around him, but in the sense that he wouldn't try anything type of safeness. Not in the sense of if there was a guy that was bothering a girl and you look at Carlos and you think that Carlos could do something but he wouldn't. So you kind of emphasize on that. Um, so those are some of his good stuff. And then next came up with Shar Rampton. And the strange thing was that Shar got the biggest laugh in her set, but it wasn't necessarily her jokes. I think it was just from her crowd work. And I think what was the point of the high level of laughs was her asking about what major someone's kid did in college. And, you know, when you're asking people for clarification of a topic that was brought up, and you just kind of go with it, and all of a sudden it just kind of took off. Um, but yeah, Char did mostly well, and especially for her crowd work. Um, I don't remember too much about her normal jokes other than listening to some familiar ones, but honestly, that crowd work was pretty gold. So, and then we got Gabe Ramirez. Uh, he always brings a lot of high energy to the crowd, and he was trying to try out some stuff, and he brought up some scenarios. What would you do if you were in this situation? And he would kind of present an idea of how to act it out, and um, I would say it's not one of his best stuff I've seen. Like the best I've seen was when he did the Laugh Factory, but um, it's cool that he's trying some new stuff, and I like that. And next we have Corey Ryan. I always seem to remember him mostly from him telling stuff about poop jokes and how you have some um, I guess advice when it comes to pooping in a hole. And somehow that's how I remember Corey. So that got some funny reactions. And then next up we got Gordon Downs. Good seeing Gordon. Um, he does his normal crowd work, and he does talk about Uber, so that's kind of cool. Um, and so his crowd work got some good laughs. Um, and then we got Jay Light. Um, Jay Light. So he does some crowd work, and he does, in a sense, kind of talk about appearances. He kind of focused on this one person with his attire, and but then I think he brought up I guess, a personal experience of a massage therapist, and I guess what to expect at the massage parlor. Um, and then kind of talk about dating and stuff, and he did mention that he now is married. Um, and then he kind of talks about like his experiences in other towns when he performs out of town. So, and I think he does talk about being a writer. So, um, other than that, yeah, overall, great show. Jay Light, I want to say, was a 8.7 out of 10 for his comedy. Um, yeah, and he does really well, and hopefully I see him down the road. Um, so we'll see what happens. Um, let's see. Should I? No, I kind of feel like I wasn't gonna grade on the scale too much for the two shows, um, but I would like to point out that the best on the Mic Drop show was Brendan and Tommy, and Lindsay doing her great music, plus with the little moments of funny suggestions during the cover song request at the Mic Drop Comic Club show. And then, of course, I do feel like Jay Light, um, Shar, um, Gordon all did pretty well on the Madhouse show. So, um, also, by the way, I did try out this one new Vietnamese pho place. It's in Oceanside slash Vista called Mr. Pho. And I got to try out their shrimp fried rice and their pho bowl with beef balls and well done steak. And gotta say, the beef balls and well done steak was pretty good. Gotta say, 9 out of 10. Um, I almost finished the broth too, or I think I finished the broth actually. So I ate everything that was in the bowl. That's how good it was. 9 out of 10. I did try out the shrimp fried rice, and that was really good actually. It wasn't oily, it wasn't burnt, so I had a good time eating it. What I liked about it also was that they took off the shell of the shrimp, so that's always a plus. So that was 8.8 out of 10, and I gotta say that parking is kind of unique, and you got to be lucky with that parking. Otherwise, you gotta park a little farther out in the parking lot to get to the restaurant because their restaurant, I believe, is like kind of close to the corner of the plaza. But the way that the corner has a parking setup is not open free. There is a like a dead end to the parking of that part of the plaza. So it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to do a 3 point turn, and it's probably best for you to kind of back in your car, but you have to do it in a special way. Because if you're going in head first into the cul-de-sac dead end, you're almost going to have to back out in a straight line to get your car out. Or if you're going to try to back into a parking spot, you got to have enough space to do it. Yeah, it's pretty unique. You don't have a lot of flexibility with that parking area in front of the restaurant, so you're probably best to park somewhere else in the parking lot and then walk your way over to the restaurant. So, anywho, they have great staff, very nice. It's like I think it's a family-owned business. They have like I think the mom and dad, two daughters, and maybe the owner's cousin or sister is helping out, and I think a couple of the chefs are, I guess, the brothers or cousins of the owners. So, yeah, it's a nice family-run business. Um, oh, and so I want to talk about the Chargers. So the Chargers, they decided not to really play their starters other than Cameron Dicker, the kicker, and Keenan Allen. And they played Trey Lance, backup quarterback, and they had a lot of the backups in the game. And they lost in Denver 19-3, but I wasn't anticipating for them to even win the game. So with the loss, the Chargers ended up with an 11-6 record. They finished second in the AFC West division, so the Denver Broncos did win the division. So Denver Broncos did end up with the number one seed in the the AFC playoff bracket, and the Chargers are number seven. So with that being the case, the Chargers are going to have to face the New England Patriots, who are the number two seed of the AFC bracket. So they're playing each other prime time Sunday night on NBC Peacock 5 o'clock. So hopefully the Chargers will beat the Patriots. And my predictions are Chargers over the Patriots, Jaguars over Bills, and Texans over Steelers, um, Packers over Bears, Rams over Panthers, Eagles over 49ers. So in that case, Chargers will be playing the Broncos in the 1-7 matchup because, the best team plays the worst team every round. And then Texans should play the Jaguars. And then the other side, you got the Packers playing the Seahawks. And then Eagles will be playing the Rams. So that's the playoffs this coming week. Have fun, guys. I'm going to try to people over. Hopefully, Chargers win. Booyaka. Tiggy Maximus out, baby.